So I am just going to talk to you, before I show you anything, talk to you a little bit about um, how to better handle Odin so that his training is reinforced and he's not getting confused and it makes your life a lot easier because you'll have a working service dog. So one of the big things is always being consistent with things. So if he is on leash, he is not to pull you ever. I don't care if that's towards a friend. I don't care if he's not in vest and it's towards the dog park. What you need to do is if he goes forward and pulling you and you're not going forward, it's an Odin, come here. And you want to stay light with it because if you say like Odin, then he'll start shutting down. So we don't want that, but it's just a Odin, let's go, let's go. And it's just a tug and release until he comes with you and you're just turning around. And if you need to circle around with him, then do it. Because the more consistent you are with him, the better he will be and the less likely he is to actually undo some of that training. The next thing I want to talk about is, so in public, if he isn't listening, just like with the heel, if you say Odin down, and I say it Odin down, it's really light. It's not Odin down. It's not very commanding because if you do that, he starts to shut down and get really sensitive and get frustrated with that. So you want to make sure that it's a, oh boy, come here, it's going to be a fun game type of thing. Keeping it light for him. It's really important. And I would carry treats with you, for this next, however many, 15 days, 16 days that you'll have him. It'll be really important that, you, carry treats with you, and it doesn't have to be anything special. I just use his dog food. He's motivated by that enough. And so if he does a command on the first time, and you may even have to lure him for the first day or two to really get him to understand that you're the handler. But if he does it the first time, give him a treat. Be like, oh, good boy, Odin, that's so good. And get really happy with it. You don't have to be loud about it, but just, oh, good dog, good dog. Give him some pettings and stuff. If he's getting shut down and overwhelmed in a public space and he starts kind of doing that low head thing where he's not really sure and he's not listening either, then what I would do is just get on the ground with him and just hug him for a little bit, pet him, give him some love-ins, and then be like, Odin, come on, you want to play a game? Come here. And then ask him to do the same thing again. And then if he does it, that's when you want to give him a treat. If he doesn't do something on the first time, though, you can still pet him and be like, okay, good boy, when he finally does it. But he only gets a treat if he does it the first time. So that's kind of the incentive of doing it immediately. Let's see. He should be in a heel position, which means not pulling, not 3 feet away. He's right next to your side, and walking. And then whenever I come to a stop, so if I'm like, okay, Odin heel, and I'm walking, and then I come to a stop, I go, wait, or Odin, wait. And then what that teaches the dog to do, because sometimes just like we're human, the dogs are human, and they start going, and if you're walking for an hour, they're not going to be I'm focusing on you 100% of the time. They're, sometimes they're off looking at things, they're kind of daydreaming, they're kind of just going forward like a little robot. And so the Odin wait is a change up enough where if you say his name, it gets his attention, and then you say the wait command, and it's oh, we're coming to a stop. And then just good boy, good dog, good boy, Odin, when he does stop. If he doesn't stop, it's an Odin, come here, and just nice and light, and you turn around and do it again, so that he does do it, and then it's oh, good boy, and you give him some belly, scratches underneath the chest there if you want. He really likes that. If he's pulling towards something, and to sniff it or to say hi to someone, whatever that thing is, if it's a dog, it's just a Odin, and then I just wait for him to look at me because I said his name, and then it's a yes, good boy, and I'm giving him treats, giving him petting, And then if he looks at it again, it's a Odin, leave it. And then when he looks at you, it's a more praise, more treats. If he doesn't look at you, if he just locks in on something and is just focused, and you're kind of pulling him a little bit, and he's like, no, I'm focusing on this thing over here, then it's just a Odin, come on, let's go. And it's just a really, like, keeping it light. You're just backing away from whatever that thing is until he can focus on you, praising him, and then continuing on. So everything is about keeping it positive for him and redirecting anytime he isn't doing something the right way, or the way that you would prefer, so that he is learning what you would like as a behavior instead of what he's offering. So it's not just a no, bad dog, which just makes him feel bad and shuts him down. It's an really lightly, which is like, no, that's not what I was asking. Here, let me show you what I was asking, and then you offer the redirection with praise and treats. He's not allowed to do any rolling over, like no belly rubs at all when he's in vest, because that turns into your dog, like, they roll on their side to get a belly rub, and then all of a sudden they roll the other way, and then they're rolling, and all of a sudden your dog is like down the hallway rolling away from you. So that's a behavior I like to avoid entirely when they're in a vest. And I'm trying to think. Oh, because I've been working so much on bow with him and really conditioning that, sometimes he gets down and bow confused. So if you tell him down, if you're like, Odin, down, and you point to the ground and he goes into a bow, like, don't get mad at him for that. I would just say, all right, all the way, like, keep going. And it's just an encouraging thing of keeping it light, but also he's like, oh, you said down instead of bow, because they are kind of similar. So I try not to fault him too much about that. With any service dog, when they're out in public, I try to think of it as, I want my dog to be as invisible as possible. So I don't want them going up to other people, sniffing other people. I don't want them in the way of, like, if you go and you're sitting at a coffee shop and there's it's kind of a tight quarters, I want to make sure that the dog is, I'll even say under, and I'll lure him with the treat underneath the table or the chair that I'm in. Or if I can't do that, trying to get him into a tiny space either next to me, away from people, or really the big thing is keeping him out of the way. So if you're shopping and you're going past a bunch of, like, different aisles with racks of clothing, I also want to make sure he's not rubbing up against clothing, getting dog hair on them. Sometimes I'll just put him underneath the clothing rack in a downstay. I'll just say, Odin, stay. And then I keep an eye on him, and he's actually pretty good about it. But then I can walk around, grab clothes, look at that type of stuff, and then come back to the dog, say, good, stay. But saying, oh, good boy, or good dog is not a release. That's a big thing. That's not the end of the command. So if I told him to stay, if I said, Odin, stay, and then I say, oh, good boy, good dog, good, stay, he is not allowed to get up yet. At all. I don't care if I pick up the leash. I don't care if I jingle the leash. In fact, I do that quite a bit as a test. It's Odin, okay, before he can get up out of his spot. And if he gets up, if I reach for that leash and say Odin, and I'm about to say okay, but he gets up before that, it's an Odin down. And I go over it again because it's really important that he understands that stay really means stay until the release command. It's a big one. Trying to think. Oh, public restrooms. This is one that's, sometimes people get in there and they're like, hey, what do I do with the service dog? And what I do is I'll walk into the stall if I'm using, well, I guess I would always use a stall, but if you're using a urinal, I don't really know what you do. But when I'm using a stall, what I'll do is I'll walk the dog towards the door, okay? And then I'll get in with the leash underneath the door. I'll close the door, and then I'll call the dog to me. So they come, if this is the door right here, sorry, this is weird. If this is the door, and I'm on this side, okay, I have the leash underneath the door, and then I call the dog so that they come into a down, and they're looking at me. And this ensures that the dog isn't going to greet someone else, it's not getting into some weird trash, and it's also not being messed with by someone. A lot of the times people, when they come up to you in public, they'll be like, I don't know, people don't have manners sometimes, and so they see a service dog and they're like, oh, he's so cute, I want to say hi, and they just reach for your dog. And so this is a way for you to be able to mitigate that. If someone tries to reach for your dog while you're trying to go to the bathroom, as glorious as that sounds, just saying like, oh, like, sorry, he can't be petted, he's working. That's a big one. Anytime someone comes up to me and asks, oh, can I pet your dog? I say, oh, like, I'm really sorry, he's working, he's not allowed to be petted right now, but thank you for asking. Trying to be as polite as possible, while still be like holding boundaries for your dog, and that's a big thing for him. I think that's everything that I can think of. Before you enter any building, if he hasn't gone to the bathroom in a while, I make sure that he goes before he enters the building. And I just tell him, like, all right, Odin, go potty, and walk around until he does. He's pretty good about it, but I just want to make sure that he's not, like, going to pee in the store because I didn't let him out. So, yeah, I think that's everything. If you have any questions, please contact me on Facebook. I'll be in Canada, so I won't have cell phone service, but I will try to check my computer as much as possible. So, best of luck. So any training that I do, I try to use really high reward treats whenever there's something super distracting, or especially the first couple days that he's working with you, just to get him in that mindset of like, oh, my dad is now my handler instead of Kelly, who he's used to. So right now I'm using like dehydrated turkey, but you can use cheese, like little cheese cubes cut up. You can use meat, you can use pretty much whatever you want as long as it's a really high reward for him. And then, yeah, this is what handling him looks like. Odin, okay. Here, heel. Odin. Yeah. Good boy. Odin. Sit. Come on. Come on, Odin. Come here. Odin. Sit. Come on. You want this? Come here. You ready? Odin, sit. No. Come on. Sit. Yes, good boy. Good boy. Odin, you. So right there was a perfect example of he got a little confused, and with the that I used, he started to shut down. So what I did was, instead of trying to force him to sit right there, I actually moved a couple feet, trying to use it as like a reset button, and then asked him again, lowering the treat, and then gave it to him because he did it that time. So trying to get him to really think that like, oh, training is really fun. He gets tuckered out real fast. And when he's not hungry, he's not super motivated either. So if you're going to work with him, like I sometimes don't even feed him breakfast, and then he gets his breakfast through training. So it's not that I'm starving him, he just has to work for his food instead of getting full immediately, first thing in the morning. So, Odin. Good boy, come here. Yes, good boy. Odin. Odin. Down. Yes, good boy. Odin, stay. Good boy. You should be able to walk all the way around him. Stay. Good boy. Over him, because people will step over your dog all the time if he's blocking in like an aisle, or a waiter's trying to get to your table. Good boy. Good stay. And me saying good stay is not the release, so he's not allowed to get up until I say the okay word, but I haven't done that yet. Good stay. Good boy. Good stay, Odin. Even jingling his leash. A lot of dogs predict that when you grab the leash that you're going to release them from the stay, so they immediately pop up. But if he does that, even if you're like Odin and you go to say, let's say the release word, and he gets up before that, it's an and it goes all the way back down, because you don't want him popping up. So, good stay. Good boy, Odin. Good stay. Odin. Okay. Good boy. Good boy, Odin. Good dog. Hi, buddy. How are you? If he tries to nudge at all, like against me because he doesn't like the gentle leader, I back away and I hold the gentle leader up, and it's an correction. I don't want him getting used to rubbing his face against my leg or anything, because it just reinforces him itching himself. It's not good. It distracts him from doing a job for you. So, like that. And there's a couple of reasons a dog might shut down a bit as far as training goes. One reason is actually, one is when they're scared. Another is when they're just overwhelmed. So if there's a huge crowd and they're like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And they're not used to big crowds, they might just kind of freeze and lock up. And so that's when you have to be really patient and really positive and not add to the scariness of the situation by getting mad at the dog. He's a sensitive little boy. Another reason is actually if they have to go to the bathroom. So a dog that really has to pee might be pulling a lot more than a dog that doesn't, because they're trying to get to an exit. They're like, I can't hold it much longer. Let's move faster. Oh, there I went. So if you see those things, you might, if he hasn't gone to the bathroom recently, definitely try that, so you don't have an accident. But otherwise, yeah, it's just staying really positive. If he gets a little upset, I'm like, come here, love me, come here. And then I'm like down on the ground and giving him loving, just to get him to be like, oh, it's okay that this situation is overwhelming. My person is here. And that way he gets confidence from being around you and knows that you're a safe thing to go to, and that he can later be confident in that situation. So that's that. He's been a good boy. I don't leave the vest on. Oh, he's not allowed to greet or sniff dogs, including your own dog if he's in a vest. So make sure that comes off, even if it's in the back of your car. Take off the vest. He's never unsupervised in the vest or in the gentle leader, just because dogs might tend to chew on those things. And if you can't see what he's doing, then he might be doing a bad habit in the vest, and that's what we want to avoid. I hope that this helps you. Yeah, I will be in Canada, but I will definitely check Facebook as much as I can if you have any questions or concerns. All right, best of luck to you, and have a safe drive back from Portland.